British sailing is underrepresented on the world stage. I would say, we started ocean racing. We started it. We started solo sailing. We started the ocean racing movement. This is arguably the home of it. And so actually, to support a British team going out and representing at high level within that sport, bringing kind of English language eyeballs to that sport is a really powerful thing.
Welcome, guys. This is the Sailing Podcast with me, Theo Stocker, and today we've got Helen Fresser, who is the editor of Yacht in the World, and we are very lucky to be joined by Pip Hare. Pip, thanks for coming on the show.
Oh, real pleasure.
Now, Pip, you are an amazing offshore racing sailing. You've got 2 Vendée Globes under your belt, and we are on an IMOCA today. Can you tell us what boat we're on and why we're on this boat?
Yes, we are on board Team B Water Positive, which is the Canada ocean racing boat. And we're just in final preparations for the Fastnet race, which is our first race of the season. We're quite a new team with this boat. And it's first race of the season building up to the Ocean Race Europe, which we start in August later this year.
Okay, so that's just around the corner.
Yep.
So if you can hear some noises, we're obviously in a working boat yard. We're on an IMOCA 16, which is made entirely of carbon and are not known for being quiet boats. Plus, we've got all of the team working flat out to get the boat ready for the Fastnet. So we're very lucky to have any time aboard at all. So apologies if there's lots of background noise, but you'll just have to take it in. So, Pip, tell us about how you got involved in Canada ocean racing and what your role on board is going to be.
So I have been in contact with Scott Scheuer, who is the skipper of Canada Ocean Racing and the founder, since he joined the class, which was in 2021. So Scott watched the 2020 Vendée Globe race during lockdown and was completely inspired by it. He's a sailor already and a very successful businessman, and he's had a lot of kind of sporting adventures in his past, and he was just completely inspired by the concept of the Vendée Globe, and so decided in 2020 that he would build a campaign, and his aim is to do the 2028 campaign. And I spoke to him at the very beginning of his campaign. He called me up and asked me for some advice, and then kind of when he joined the class, I guess I was quite mindful of when I joined the class first in 2019, kind of being an English-speaking foreigner based in another country. It was quite daunting, and sometimes I did feel quite isolated. And so I have just kept in contact with Scott throughout his journey, because I kind of thought I didn't want him to feel the same way that I had. We've built a relationship like that. And when he said he was going to do the ocean race, then I started talking to him about being part of the team, because it's something that I was quite inspired to do. And we started talking about it before the Vendée. And then after I dismasted, in my slow boat journey, my 14 days it took me to get back to Melbourne, we talked a lot about how we might collaborate going forwards, because he really wanted to support me, and he knew he was moving into his next phase of his campaign with a foiling boat, and I've ended up here. So I'm running the sailing program for him this year to get things going. I'm on the crew for every leg of the Ocean Race Europe, and I will be the skipper on legs 2 and 4 when Scott's not available.
I mean, that's you talk about how your journey into the IMOCA class was a little bit different, maybe, from some of the how French kids got in. But what Scott's doing is remarkable. I mean, to go from basically being an amateur Corinthian sailor, albeit a very good one, so through ocean racing level, how does that jump? How do you make that leap?
So I think I think a lot of it is about having the vision and the ambition and the determination, which Scott is absolutely full of. But he's set about it in a very methodical way. You know, he put together an 8-year program. He didn't just go straight in and say, I'm going to do this. He put together an 8-year program, and it's a program with these developmental goals. And he's constantly learning and developing. You know, he started out in a daggerboard boat. He kind of mastered the solo sailing in a daggerboard boat, all of the skills that you need, but also the regulation and the methodology. And now actually moving into a foiling boat. And this boat, you know, we'll talk about it in a bit, but this is arguably the most powerful foiling boat in the fleet. You know, this is not a half boat. And actually he's then kind of developed a game. So he's making sure he's bringing people into his program that can support him in that journey. And what's nice about the Ocean Race Europe is we're sailing as a full crew for 2 months. And, you know, I'm on the crew. We've got Chris Pratt, we've got Seb Marset, we've got Brian Thompson. A lot of knowledge coming in, and he's just going to, you know, he's learning all the time, but by osmosis, by the time we've done 2 months, he will know so much. It's a real fast track, yeah. And then the next step is to do a double-handed race and then a solo race. So actually, it's such a well thought out program, and he's kind of coming at it in a humble way, I think, and willing to learn from others, which is just, yeah, I mean, it's a well put together program.
And for you, obviously, then, you know, so it's a full crew. You've done your whole focus for ages has been on solo. What's that shift like? Suddenly being in a boat with a load of other people, sharing watches, being able to go to sleep.
It's fantastic, actually. I wasn't sure how I would feel to start off with. And I think a lot of it is, you know, I am just used to managing everything. And that does make me controlling is the word, isn't it? I mean, let's not beat around the bush.
And there goes the solo sailing.
Yeah. But it's so liberating to be able to say to someone, have you got that? And know they've got it. But then the other side is just the rapid gain of knowledge is just brilliant. Just sitting and brainstorming stuff and be able to talk about it. But also, we put together a really good crew, I think. You know, I was slightly worried about, you know, one of the reasons I think I love solo skiing so much is it's just enabled me to develop as a sailor, and it's enabled me to, you know, work my way through these progressively more difficult situations. But I've never been really exposed, you know, I've had time to manage things on my own and learn and grow on my own. And I guess I was slightly worried about, you know, being in a full crew situation and being criticised by others or kind of exposing myself not to be the sailor that I hope to be. But actually, we've got a really, really great team who are supportive, who are all willing to say, I don't know so much about that. Can you support me? Can you teach me? Should we go and find out together? And that kind of collaborative approach I've really, really enjoyed. Yeah.
And do you think there are things that you've learned from this team that you hadn't learned about these boats and the sailing before?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, really, really.
Any example?
So there's a fundamental difference between my boat and this boat as well. You know, my boat was a 2016 generation boat with small foils. We put big foils into it. We made it as powerful as it possibly could be, but it's not this boat and it never will be. And one of the key things is the foiling upwind, the early flight and foiling upwind. And the upwind VMG mode in these boats is very, very different. And, you know, initially I've been really struggling to try and get the boat to take off upwind, and you're kind of plodding along at 14 knots. And you know, you look over to your right and there's Arkea Paprec doing 17 knots, and you're like, well, how in the heck do they do that? And actually working with Chris Pratt on that has been great because he's got knowledge from Ellipsia, he's got knowledge from Holston PRB, he's got knowledge from Chirao.
And how do they do that?
But it's just like sailing a foiling dinghy. So rather than using the pilot, we've discovered it's much better to be hand steering, and we kind of set ourselves up into kind of like we call it dinghy mode. So you've got one person on the main sheet, one person on the ped, one person steering, and you bear away, lean on the foil, get the speed up. Exactly, that's exactly it. Yeah,
set up to, but literally on feel and
And then once it's going, you can put the pilot on and use the overlayers to keep that pressure on. But in marginal conditions, you have to force the speed. But it's a combination of speed and heel. Heel too much, you won't get the lift off the foil. So as you're bearing away for that speed, you've got to ease the main and control the heel. But the minute you pop up, you then come up into the breeze, trim the main back in again, and off you go.
So that's the challenges of these kind of folks, isn't it? The difference between sort of displacement, the acceleration and deceleration. Certainly through the last edition of Vendée, that was one of the things that seemed to really challenge me, but just in terms of living on board as much as sailing performance.
Oh yeah, I mean it's brutal, but this boat is so much more stable than mine. And I think that's all, there's a lot more volume in the bow. It was designed to, with the big foils, and that makes it more stable. Although these ones are particularly big, they're very, very deep, these, so you can ride a bit too high. But yeah, I mean, it can be very stop-start, and when you stop, it's like being in a car crash. You just fly.
This boat's got incredible pedantry as well. It's, I mean, it's won all Persia Dilemma, hasn't it?
Yes, yeah. So it won the ocean race, and despite breaking a foil, Seb came third in the Vendée, which is insane. Yeah, this is a fast and powerful boat. Yeah.
No. In terms of your role on board as a watch leader and then as skipper, what are the things that you're going to be doing and thinking about that you wouldn't be thinking about in as a solo racer on one of these?
So I think the main thing is that we break down the responsibilities on board. So kind of in general, my role throughout all the racing is the general responsibility on the boat. So because I've been with the boat since we launched it, I'm the one on board that has the most knowledge about everything. So it's kind of, I'm managing things like, just checking all the systems, making sure we've got enough power. If in an emergency situation, I would be the one that took control. And then we've got a dedicated navigator for every leg. But I think the navigator will be, making the calls about where we go and how we do it. But as a team, I think we're going to discuss most things. And then when we go into manoeuvres, we've all got set positions on the boat in manoeuvres. So I manage the pit, and on this boat, it is a snake pit. I mean, I don't think I've sailed a boat with such a messy pit before.
I'll make sure we get a picture of that.
And I've started to get quite aggressive with people who come in and mess my ropes up. I know exactly how you should be.
So just to describe for people who are listening, so we've got, at the aft end, we've got a tiller with two winch drums and a whole pile of ropes around them coming in from the waters. Then we've got the pedestal, and then we've got a massive bin full of ropes as well, two more winch drums, and I can't even count how many lines we've got coming. This is in the forward bulkhead between the two companionways. We must have, 30 lines coming out there?
I would say so, yeah. There's a few. And we've taken some out as well.
And you've got hydraulics here as well.
Yes. So on this boat, there's a hydraulic Outhaul Cunningham and J3, as well as the hydraulic rams to move the foil rake. So this boat has quite a bit more hydraulics on it than the other boats in the fleet.
Yeah.
And the pace of the ocean racing yacht's different as well, isn't it? Because it's actually relatively short legs, quite a lot of them, compared to, some of the transats. How do you feel about that stop start? Does that change how you race?
Yes, and we've been talking about it a lot because, I mean, the navigation in relation to geography, especially on leg 1, is brutal.
Can you just tell us the route?
So the route starts in Kiel, and then leg 1 goes around the top of Denmark, down the North Sea. So we've got, yes, and coming out around the top of Denmark, there's a lot of virtual marks. They want to kind of keep us in a bit of a corridor. The North Sea, obviously, we've got wind farms, we've got sandbanks, we've got TSS, we've got oil rigs, and then we've got to get through the Dover Straits. Not a lot of room there. So leg 1 is Kiel to Portsmouth. Leg 2 is Portsmouth to Cartagena, so it's all the way down that Atlantic coast of Europe and then in through the Med, dodging the killer whales, to Cartagena. But we've got a flyby in Matagino, I think I said that right, which is just north of Porto. So effectively that's a rolling 3-hour stopover in Portugal.
You don't go in?
And we do. We have to go in, dock the boat. Those of us who are not European have to clear customs, in and out.
That takes days itself, doesn't it?
And I tell you what, if I do not get a coffee and a pastel del nata during that stopover, there will be full diva.
So... Everyone's listening to this, make sure you're there. You're going to assist the operation test or not.
So yeah, it's a rolling 3-hour pit stop in Portugal, and then round to Cartagena, and then leg 3 is Cartagena to Nice. Leg 4 is Nice to Genoa, and those are 2 short legs, so we're probably going to have virtual marks in there just to extend the course a bit. They ideally want us racing for around 3 days, and then the final leg is quite a long one, so that is Genoa, which is kind of on the... It's in I call it the armpit of Italy. I'm sure they won't enjoy that though. So it's on the border where Italy joins to France on the western side, and then all the way around the bottom of Italy, and then up into the Adriatic, and we finish in Montenegro. So that's quite a long leg. And for me, completely uncharted territory. I've never been that far east in the...
Yeah, there's almost no racing that would ever take you on that route, is there?
No, so it's going to be, I mean, for everyone, I think it's going to be quite new.
I think in that part of the world, you can have either very light winds for extended periods or really quite strong.
Yes.
I can't remember what the wind's called, but it comes up, I think, from the southwest, and I did a charter there once. And it's stunningly beautiful, but you get these sort of big old storms barreling up the Adriatic.
Yeah.
And then it's like calm again. So
yeah. Well, I think it's going to be I think the Mediterranean, so I did the Ocean Race Europe last time with Bureau Valet. And, the Mediterranean, it's a different sort of racing, especially in the summer. And I think it does kind of mix it up a bit more. That there is that stop-start element. You kind of get some boats that are ahead and away, and then you get to a wind shadow and everyone parks up, joins back up again, and off you go. So I think there are definitely different challenges for racing in the Med.
It's going to be hot as well. I mean, we're here on a great day, bit of sun, and it's toasty in here.
Yeah. Yeah,
it is. It
is. So we've been training in Lorient for the last 2 months, and it has been a hot early part of the year, and it is absolutely roasting it. And down below on this boat, there is not one single gram of paint anywhere. It's just black carbon.
That just radiate.
Yeah, and even in here, we've got fans in the corner to circulate a little bit of air, but you don't really get much coming in through these exits of the cockpit.
No opening hatches, are there?
No opening hatches, and I mean it's fiercely hot. And I think interestingly, there were a couple of days we went up training where we were doing a lot. We were doing quite a lot of sail changes, and I got in at the end of the day and was just completely cramped. So we're going to have to make sure we're thinking about electrolytes and everyone's drinking enough, and that kind of side of things. I think you can get fatigued so quickly in that heat.
I mean, also, this is a big event, not that long after the end of Vendée. It's incredible talent in the fleet, like Mars and Tom Schwann, it goes like that. I mean, this fleet is relentless, right? Do you ever get a break?
You're right. The pace is incredible, and it's great. It is great. The amount of events is fantastic. As being a sailor and being able to be a part of that is amazing. And for me, especially, kind of coming from my solo campaign and then being able to slot into crude racing of this caliber with, as you've said, the performance that it is just immense. But there is a relentlessness about it. And the other thing is that this course is tight. The stopovers, it's around 3 days at each stopover. And during those 3 days, there are fan days. We're also doing corporate sailing. So we're doing speed runs with guests on board. And I would say, for the sailors, I've already been talking to the kind of shore side of Canada Ocean Racing team about protecting sailors' time. I've said I don't want anybody organising a dinner after 6:30 at night. If sailors need to interact with sponsors, then I want it to be around lunchtime instead of in the evening. We have to protect sleep. Everyone needs to sleep. But I would also kind of spare a thought for the shore teams, because they've got 3 days to turn the boats around between legs. They're driving between each stopover, and we'll be using the boat on 1 or 2 of those days. So the shore teams are going to be working through the night. And especially if you've got repairs to do, I think it's a challenging course for everyone. And one of the things I think, we do forget, it's all about the sailors. But this is, when we talk team, we're talking people who manage all the logistics, getting everyone from A to B. We're talking the people who've organised all of the food for every leg for 5, because with 5, we've got an ABR as well. And then that shore team, onboard reporter, yeah. And then that shore team who, have to turn up, set up in a new place, find out where the technical area is, where they can get power, where they can buy things. It's a monumental effort from everyone. So yeah, I definitely would kind of include the wider team in that.
And obviously you've got your own project ticking over in the background as well, so it's not like you can totally shut that off. Where are you at with Pip Hare solo projects?
We will ride again. Yes, it obviously, it's not been the best start to the year for me, and there's a number of different layers to that. One is the emotional impact of not finishing the Vendée is hard, and I'm even welling up talking about it now, because you're always aware that it could happen. You set off and it could happen, but you don't believe it's going to happen. And it's devastating not to finish that race. It's devastating. So there's a little bit of healing needs to be done there, but this is definitely helping.
I was going to say, does getting back out to sea
being able to go sailing, I think if I couldn't go sailing now, I think it would be really hard. And then obviously there's the sticking the boat back together. Now I had a spare mast. I've got a really great suit of sails as spares, and so actually the mechanical ability to put the boat back together is all there. But, inevitably, none of this can happen unless we can find a title sponsor or sponsorship to the value of. And that's the hard bit. So kind of in the background, we are working as hard as we can to try and find new partnerships, to, implement a funding strategy to at least get us to the route to Rome. But for me...
Which is, 18 months from it?
Yeah, the route to Rome is November 2026.
Have you committed to doing that?
I am committing to do it, yeah. And Yeah, I mean, I fully intend to race around the world again. It would be amazing to be part of the ocean race around as a full crew, but, you know, I have to race around solo as well. I have to. Just as I have to.
I mean, it's a funny time, isn't it? Because obviously it's not that long at the back of the Vendée. Kind of feels a bit like musical chairs. Like there's lots of teams changing sponsors and arms and the build slots and everything's on the market. Like, how do you plan through this stage in a 4-year Vendée cycle?
I think it's hard if you do not have ongoing finance, and that's the thing. That is the thing, you know, and the teams that you are seeing changing boats, ordering new boats, launching new boats, they're all the ones that either had sponsorship, you know, multi Vendée sponsorships, or, you know, it was all signed and sealed and in the bag before they left. And those that weren't able to make those deals before going, you know, most sponsorship contracts come to an end at the end of 2025. So quite a lot of sponsors ask to do the TJV, or the Transat Café Lourd, as it's called now, as a final event. And so, yeah, we're seeing across the fleet, people are announcing that, you know, their sponsors aren't continuing, or boats are for sale. And there's a lot of uncertainty at the moment. But I guess, you know, and I reflected on this a bit, I guess I kind of thought, you have to state your intentions. Is this a massive emotional energy needs to be put into it, and that energy is, yeah, I'm going to do this again. The only way I can do it again is by trying. You know, I need to put everything back on the line. I need to step out. I need to work hard. It's exactly the same methodology as I used in 2018. I guess you have to be careful how you frame it, because there is a part of me that is kind of like, oh, I don't want to go back to 2018.
Was there a little bit of you thought, oh, do I go again?
Yeah. There is, and I've always kind of said, at the end of it, this is an ongoing thing, isn't it? You know, I've been on this road since 2009 with the All-Star. And at the end of every single event, you put all of this energy. It is such a huge amount of energy. I mean, it really, really is. You put it all into making this thing happen. And then you get to the end and you think, okay, do I want more? And then you're just kind of checking in with that fire inside you, which for me is like a raging inferno. It's like, yeah, of course I want more, of course, because I know I can do more, because I love this sport, because I've dedicated my life to it. And then you say, okay, well, am I capable of more? You know, is this physically, or is it in terms of my ability, the end of the road? Can I grow? Can I develop? Can I manage? And then the next question is, have I got the energy to just start again? And I think that the answer to the first question is what determines the answer to the last question. If you're passionate enough about it, then you will find the energy. But there is every time there's kind of like because you know how hard it's going to be. And I think the only respite I've ever had from that was with my second Vendée campaign, because the CEO of Medallia, Leslie Stretch, then he called me up during the Vendée and said, we're going to do this again. So I came home and I knew it was going to happen. But since 2009, I've pretty much done a major campaign every year. And that's the first time I've ever known that the next one was going to happen.
Yeah. And it seems that in France, the general public, the sailing world, and the sort of the business world, so they get offshore racing. They're so passionate about it in a way that it seems odd that it doesn't quite catch on here. For you, particularly as you're looking for sponsors, what is it that gets French sponsors so excited about getting involved with the Vendée Globe and IMOCA campaigns? And what is it they can get excited about in your campaign?
So I think in general, the French public are in love with the adventure aspect of it. And when you think about all of the people who turn up to race villages, the Vendée Globe race village,
It's hundreds of thousands.
millions. Yeah.
Wow.
The Route du Rhum, you know, they just come, and they come to look at the boats because these boats are incredible. They're incredible pieces of kit, and it is. Yes, I know. But I always equate it to, look how many fans there are of Formula One racing. How many people know about those teams and those cars, and they turn up to watch it, and they're never going to step foot in one of those. They're never going to drive one of them, but they find it accessible, and so they've chosen to invest their time in learning about it. And I think kind of there's a combination of the French. I guess it's a much more egalitarian sport there. You know, many more people are involved in it, have access to it, and are in love with the adventure. And the concept of the Vendée is just so big, isn't it? I mean, it's so pure and so big, and it's quite an easy thing to fall in love with. And I think, you know, we have seen that in the UK when people have learnt about the Vendée, they've really fallen in love with it.
No small parts of the videos that you do as you're going down that people just adore. They're like they're amazing videos. It really puts you on board with you what the experience is like to solo sail at however many 15, 20, 30 knots around the world.
Well, and the advancement in satellite communications and the way that we're able to film has really helped us tell a story, and it's a human story, because, you know, some people wonder about which sail you've got up at what point, but most people want to know, you know, how do you manage to make a meal? How do you stay positive? You know, what does it feel like to be thrown across the cabin? You know, did that hurt? Or it's all the human things about it is what they want to see, how you're experiencing it. But also, you know, these on things like the ocean race, when we've got our onboard reporter and she's able to fly a drone for us and people can see from the outside in.
Our drone technology is just fantastic. I mean, we use that for boat testing, and it transforms what we can do. That showing a boat sort of deep in the Southern Ocean, and that was just footage that you never saw.
No, and it only tells a snippet of the story, but it's enough to take people kind of next level. And I think kind of in terms of what, you know, businesses get from it, it's about, there is definitely a change in the way that people are viewing sponsorship. You know, sponsorship used to just be about the best branding you could possibly have. And, you know, classic example is the Hugo Boss sponsorship. They always said that was about, you know, just having their brand seen. And so they used to do a lot of kind of guerrilla marketing. They used to, you know, just sail most of the boat up and down with the mainsail up behind like a golf course or something like that. It would be in the background somewhere else. But now I just think sponsorship is less flat than that. It's about demonstrating values. It's about engaging people in a relatable story. It's about demonstrating, you know, who you are, who you aspire to be, making people feel valued, but also giving them something to aspire to, engage in. And a lot of companies are looking to a sport like this because there are so many levels. You know, I was just talking about how we all interact as a team. That's an incredible analogy for any business. You know, you've got your rock star sailors, but they would be nothing without the support network behind them. And every single person's actions matter. And that's, you know, a very demonstrable value for a company to kind of engage with. But then it's, as solo sailors, it's what we represent. You know, it's the fact that we are so inspired to take on, you know, an incredible sporting challenge, but also to relentlessly try and be better, to sort out our own problems, to you know, always believe that we could, you know, push harder, to look for the line between risk and rewards. You know, for an individual to be able to kind of demonstrate those things that so many of us talk about in the business world,
Yeah.
but actually show them, is something that a lot of companies really want to engage in.
Yeah.
And if you're, I guess, if somebody's listening to this who's in sports marketing, who's in this world, what's your elevator pitch? As in, why should somebody come in and sponsor a British skipper, specifically you? Like, what's the USP that they get that way?
So I think we are, with my team over the last 6 years, we have actually managed to change the face of what professional sailing looks like. We're the only female-led team, and there are other sailing teams with female skippers, but they're managed by men. So we're the only team that is female-led in terms of our management and a female skipper. And within 6 years of being in an incredibly competitive sport, we made our way into the top 10. So kind of in terms of our drive, how we've progressed through the sport and our representation within the sport, we are changing the face of that. But, also British sailing is underrepresented on the world stage, I would say. We started ocean racing. We started it. We started solo sailing. We started the ocean racing movement. This is arguably the home of it.
Yeah.
And so actually, to support a British team going out and representing at high level within that sport, bringing kind of English language eyeballs to that sport is a really powerful thing. And I think any kind of company that partners with us is not just partnering with us as a sailing team, but they're also supporting us to increase the power and the potential for other sailing teams in the UK to move forwards.
Yeah. One of the things I wanted to pick up on is that in both of your Vendée campaigns, keeping your boats going, and I don't want to go back to the dismasting necessarily, but safety is a massive part of what you do, and keeping everybody on board in a cruise situation, keeping everybody safe on board, and how you prepare for all this unexpected, sort of expecting the unexpected. How do you do that? And what are the things? I know you work with Helen on some of your safety kit. Obviously, just name check one of your sponsors there. But when you're preparing for an event like this, what are the sort of the safety things that are going covered?
So I think the one thing to remember is you might look around this boat and think that it's all massively, high tech and risky, but everything, once you peel away everything, the basics are good seamanship, and the rules of good seamanship apply across the board, whether you're flying one of these things or whether you're going out in your 20-foot day sailor. Basic seamanship applies, and from basic seamanship, you build fast, good, elite level sailing. And so, being prepared for anything, no matter how long your trip, is important. Having the right kit to wear, safety kit on board, tools and spares, but also kind of one thing we do for the Vendée is we look at the boat from bow to stern critically. We look at every single part of it, and we map out what failure would look like.
So if this went wrong, what is our next step? What can we fix that?
Exactly, yeah. And so you're kind of, there's a huge amount of experience that goes into that, having done it. Okay, well, this happened to me, so I know I need to take this or change this, or this is how I would deal with it. But then you also need to kind of imagine scenarios. So, I'd never dismasted an IMOCA before, but I'd mapped out how a jury rig would look, what I would do. So kind of when...
And when that happened, how close was the reality of what happened and how you dealt with it to the sort of the scenario planning you done for that?
Do you know what? It was pretty much spot on. So, the initial action is just, check the hull, make sure there's no breach, make sure, the damage isn't going to get rapidly worse. And then it's kind of work out what you can salvage, cut the rig away. I had to cut the rig away quite quickly because I was worried it was going to punch a hole in the side of the boat. But, I had, for example, in my toolbox, I had an angle grinder with a cutting blade, fully charged. It always is. And every time, you use a battery on something, you charge it, you put a different battery in. It's that kind of process of doing that. But I had a hacksaw with a brand new blade in it and a packet of new blades with it. And it's that level of detail and preparation that's important. And I guess that's the other thing is it's all very well having safety kit on the boat, but it needs to be serviced, it needs to be maintained, and you need to know how to use it. And so, with kind of one thing we do quite regularly with all our safety kit on board for the crude racing is we've got various beacons. We all have a PLB, we have an AIS device, we've got strobes, and everybody has their own kit. And as part of that, everybody needs to look at their kit, make sure they know, because they've all got different trigger mechanisms. Yeah. So you just make sure you actually know how you set it up.
And do you have to do man overboard drills on this game?
Well, it's difficult. So I think, there's an element of, obviously you wouldn't do like a real man overboard drill unless you absolutely had to, but we talked through how we would stop the boat and which piece of kit we would use when. But it is very challenging on these boats because they're pretty hard to stop.
Yeah, they're not really designed for slow speed.
And in any kind of seaway as well, it's pretty difficult maneuvering them, kind of thinking about where you would make contact with someone, how you would make contact with them. So yeah, it's not that easy.
It has been very successfully done then.
It has very successfully, yes. Yeah, and actually what, an interesting part of that is that the rules changed around the rules with E-Class IMOCA have changed in a nod to man overboard situations because they've upgraded the power of the engine, but also there was a move to kind of bring to maximize performance. There was a move to bring engines back in the boat, and there were some boats that had prop shafts very close to the back of the boat, and that's now not allowed anymore. And it is a really important consideration in the solo racing because the likelihood is it will be, especially when you get down to the south, the likelihood is it will be another competitor that gets you.
A pilot boat coming here, we've just been Gosport Marine, the pilot boats going out to bring other ship in. So if you hear that noise, that's what that is. Probably going to be wrapping up shortly, but one of the things I wanted to ask you was you're very unbelievably passionate about offshore racing, but also sailing generally. You love sailing. Where did that passion come from, for you? And I also want to know, what was the first boat you ever sailed?
Well, the first boat I ever sailed was a folk boat, clinker-built wooden folk boats, which belonged to my grandfather, and then we inherited it as a family. But there's a picture of me on that boat, less than 1 year old, I think. So yeah, we used to on the River Deben on the East Coast. We used to regularly manage to cram 6 of us into it. And yeah, I kind of grew up sailing that, but it wasn't really sailing for us. It was all about jumping in the river, which when you think about it now, we spent most of the time in that river in the 70s. So it's amazing that I don't have like 7 toes or...
Probably why it's so tough now.
But I think I kind of really developed my passion for sailing as a teenager. I went on, it was called a Young Skippers Scheme run by the RYA when I was 16. And it was a scheme that was run out of Plymouth with 3 engineless hunter duets and they had 4 crew on each. There were kind of 3 16-year-olds and then 1 18-year-old who was in charge of each boat. And we
I feel like this is a potential risk assessment.
and we went to, so we had no engines, no GPS, no nothing like that. We did all of our navigation on charts on our knees, we could go wherever we wanted. We had this massive. The lead boat had a massive brick mobile phone, like one of those huge. But we used RDS to find out where we were, and it was. Don't tell my parents, but it was basically just a pub crawl. But I just for a teenager, 16-year-old, to be able to go and do that, it's a massive amount of agency. It's adventure. It's looking at a horizon that there's nothing on. It's being able to decide where you're going, how you're going to get there. It's being responsible. It's yeah. Well, yeah. Everything about it, though, just inspired me. The adventure, but also I could feel the open-endedness of it. I could feel that this was something that would never stop.
Yeah, there's nothing on that. Once you get to the horizon, there's the whole world is then connected by. It's always keep going up.
Yeah, and I guess that's the thing about sailing, isn't it? In so many ways, there's always something over the horizon. There's always going to be a faster boat. There's always going to be a better position in a race. There's always going to be, a personal best. There's always going to be a new creek, a new bay. You're going to experience weather and conditions you've never seen before. You're going to sail with people you've never met. You're going to see countries you've never seen from a different perspective. It just goes on and on and on. There is not one single person in the world who can say they've been there and done it and they know sailing.
Yeah.
And that's why I've spent over 30 years obsessing about it.
Yeah. And if there's one place in the whole world that you've sailed that you would like to go back to, where would that be?
I don't have one. I get asked this such a lot, and I don't have a favourite place. But I've got a lot of places that I want to go. And I think for me, the real interest when I hang up my racing boots is going to be high latitudes. I'm fascinated where the mountains meet the sea, the Chilean channels.
Yeah.
And what I would love to do is get a proper expedition boat with mountaineering kit, snowboarding kit, go and find some little creek where no one else is, go and hike up a glacier and then snowboard down. And just that extension of the adventure into the land, I think and it's just breathtakingly beautiful, isn't it? But it has to be a well-kitted out boat with a heater and lots of hot water.
Yeah.
And a toilet.
Object on the study is Westerny Discus 33.
No.
Up to Greenland.
No, not for me. Not for me. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, I think we'll wrap it up there, but thank you so much for your time, Pip.
Thank you.
Really good. Amazing you spared that time for us in the run up to the Fastnet. All the best for the Fastnet.
Thank you.
And the Ocean Race Europe, if that goes really well. And for your future campaigns as well.
Thank you.
Keep us updated.
I will.
Well, there we go. That's all we've got time for. If you've enjoyed that, like it, subscribe it, share it, all of that stuff. And we will see you next time on the Sailing Podcast.